This old guy DIY video has to do with making a couple of modifications to the stake that this big Bluebird house is on. So with a 3/4 inch conduit up top, you can see how that thing sways, and a heavy wind would do it just as well as my lightly touching it does. So we're going to change a few things up. This thing is currently built as a piece of rebar that's driven into the ground about 4 feet, and then the piece of 3/4 inch conduit is driven in about 2 feet on top of that. But since the rebar doesn't touch the conduit anyway, unless the conduit swings from one side to the other, you have a lot of free play. We're going to change this up, use a T-post with that conduit, and you'll see the difference shortly. As we disassemble this thing, we just took that piece of duct work off. You see he has a couple of little L brackets here that are held on with a hose clamp. And he has a 10-foot piece of 3/4 inch conduit, so we're going to pull that. So rather than having the rebar on the inside diameter of that 3/4 inch conduit, we just took this 6-foot T-post, pounded that down so about 4 feet are hanging up. Now he'll bring the conduit over. Set the conduit in right there where one of the 90s on the T-post is. Now he'll pound this down a little bit so he has the height that he wants. We're going to just take 2 big zip ties, put them from the T-post to that 3/4 inch conduit, and the birds are going to think that they have a hurricane safe structure. So we now have 1 big zip tie holding the conduit to the T-post. He has these brackets at 68 inches off the ground, so you can see that's what the pre-assembly looks like. Now he'll drop the stovepipe over the top. Now the 8-inch duct is on top of that 3/4 inch conduit. We look up here, very stable by comparison. Now we'll just come down and tighten these 2 straps back on, and the birdhouse will be in position. This is what the more rigid structure looks like. That baffle should defeat coons. The tight fit here on the top should defeat snakes. When I push on this thing, it doesn't have a 1-foot sway like it did before. So he believes that his bluebirds are going to be happy with this more stable deal. He has about 8 more houses to put out, so we're going to use the same technique on the other 8.